Hi everyone, welcome to Dyslexic Design Thinking, the bigger picture with amazing dyslexics. I'm your host, Gil Gershoni. This episode is about dyslexia and design with a jewelry designer, an architect, and a leather designer. Enjoy. Hey Bill.
Hi Bill. Hi Julian.
Hi Sari. How's it going, guys?
Hi.
Welcome. Nice to see you all. It's so lovely to have you guys with us from all over the world, from London to Singapore to Berlin, obviously San Francisco here. So this is a true dyslexic community from all around the world. And I know also today in our chat from all around the world, we have people joining as well. So all of you out there that are watching today, please submit any questions you have, follow us, and make sure to stay a part of this amazing community. So let's start with you, Bill. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi there, and so nice to be here and be part of this community. It's quite extraordinary to be, it's an honor. I love it. I design and manufacture all kinds of things in leather. So we do furniture and architectural installations all around the world. We work with Parry, for instance, in London, and we design and develop a lot of things for a lot of different people, architects and interior designers and private individuals. I'm blessed with having the most amazing craftsmen I work alongside in London. And we cover everything from design through to development, through to manufacturing of highly specialized and very, very heavily crafted work. I was lucky enough to get involved at a very, very early age, and my parents really encouraged me to design and make things, and that's what I've been doing ever since. I'm probably one of the few people who's managed to make a career out of their hobby.
Amazing.
Oh.
Welcome back.
She's back.
Can I do the intros, or is it too late?
Never too late. That's the beauty about having a salon that's live. We are just, let's go with the flow. So please, I would love to hear what you're looking forward to today. And please share with us.
Wow, I would love to introduce Bill and Sari. I'm so sorry. I lost connection. I had to restart my Mac, but I'm here in all my glory. Anyway.
And breathe.
And breathe. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Bill Amberg, the celebrated leather designer and craftsman with a passion for the material of no other, known in particular circles as the Leather Man. Bill set up Bill Amberg Studios in 1984, originally starting out as a bag designer and business. I remember going into his exquisite shop 20 years ago and choosing a bag for my birthday. And look, here it is, in all its wonderful glory. It's aged beautifully, it's lovely, I treasure it forever. But by 1986, Bill had moved on to bigger interior projects, producing his first leather floor for a private client. By combining leather with interiors, the commission started to roll in. Now Bill works internationally. He designs and makes really beautiful things with great care and courage. Experimental curiosity drives the studio to make things that haven't been done before in leather. And I can't wait to hear Bill talk passionately about his favourite subject and material and his collaborations with artists Yinka Ilori and Swedish synthesizer company Teenage Engineering and how they bonded over vintage audio gear. And so while we're talking about amazing design, I would love to introduce Sari Räthel, the charismatic, talented jewelry designer. Sari's opening sentence in our book is, together is better, it's more fun. And I couldn't agree more. Collaboration is a dyslexic's best friend. Sari grew up in Germany and her first word was necklace. Her parents ran a bead company. So she left Germany and headed off for the bright lights of London to take up an internship with the couture fashion jewelry designer Scott Wilson. She then entered the RCA to complete an MA in jewelry and metal. And Sari says, with all the different courses, the opportunity at the RCA for collaboration are endless. You meet other students in the bar, and that's when all the magic happens. So in 2017, she co-founded Räthel, She loves working with her design partner, Ricarda Wolf, and together they create luxury pieces that highlight and cover and contour the body, and no piercing is required. So I'm super excited to hear how Sari bounces ideas with Ricarda and how she actually struggles to put her ideas onto paper, but excels at creating these wonderful 3D maquettes. I got my intros in!
That was beautiful. Well done. We needed it. We needed it. That was so lovely.
Sorry.
So lovely. So with that said, Julian, hi from Singapore.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us. I know that it's very early in the day for you. So we're so grateful to have you. How are you? Tell us a little bit, how's it going?
Well, thanks for the wonderful intro, Kate. It takes me back 20 years plus. Yeah. I think soon after I did your gallery, I walked into Eric Parry Architects to make a model for Eric, and I spent about a week at the back of the studio quietly making a model, and that was the beginning. It then led on to a sort of 14 months of production of a book, Eric Parry's first monologue, which was sort of my intro into the practice of sort of tracking back the 15 years or at that time of the history of the practice, and it was something as a dyslexic, doing a book was kind of interesting, wasn't it? No one knew I was dyslexic, or probably wouldn't have let me touch his book, but I was doing all the illustration, fortunately, and coordinating it with the designer, so I didn't have to do the writing. But so that was my beginning at Eric Parry's 20 years ago, and it's a practice that's very close to the heart. It's very much about it's got a very rich materiality as a character of practice out there. We place some very bespoke buildings in the city of London, mostly, but more recently, probably in more regional cities like Birmingham, and we're doing a project in Beijing and Tokyo and Singapore. So we're slowly sort of challenging our comfort zone and going out and showing what qualities we share with other cultures, and that's a kind of exciting aspect of being out here at the sort of edge. Yeah, I think that's enough of me.
Well done. Thank you. Sounds so exciting. Sari, hi. How's it going?
Good. I'm really well. Yeah, I think there was a great introduction across my whole life. Well, I'm in Berlin since a year now, but yeah, we founded our company in London in 2017. So I work really closely together with my friend Ricarda. So as Kate said before, it's really amazing to have someone to collaborate with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you can see some of our jewelry here. I'm wearing a lot.
Gorgeous.
Also, yeah, I think one of the things which is really important to us is really the relationship to the body of the material. And yes, Gil mentioned, we don't really draw in 2D. We draw straight in the material around the body. So for us, the material understanding is really important. So we have a deep knowledge in metal, but also gemstones. And yeah, so we create straight around the body. That's also why our earrings are without any piercings. So they just hook in, and that sort of just happened naturally by finding new placements and really playing with the material and around the volumes and the gaps of the body. Yeah, I think that's sort of the core of what we do. But we also love to collaborate really with people around us, our network. As you mentioned, we have a really big network in London still, of course. And so we collaborate with designers, with perfumers, with everything sort of which can be related to the body as well. Also, one of the photographs here in the background is a wonderful photographer who's been working with us, Emma Backlund. And there's a gemstone as well, which we're using for our collections.
Beautiful.
In the studio.
Well, welcome all of you. I'm so excited to have you here for us to sort of, dive deep into the creativity and the process and how we work with our dyslexia. Bill, tell us why did you choose the medium you choose, and what started you on that road? And I know that you brought some leather examples and things. So would you tell us a little bit about your relationship to your medium?
I grew up near Northampton, which is the centre of the English shoe trade, and makes the most beautiful shoes in the world. My mother was an architect. She worked for Alvo Alto. She's half Finnish. And my dad had a lift and escalator business based in Northampton. So architecture was right in the bloodstream, if you like. But my dyslexia was never really discussed or talked about when I was young. In fact, it was the last thing that my English master told me, literally on my last day at school. He said, "Don't worry, Bill, you're probably dyslexic." That was the end. That's the first I heard about it. But they really encouraged me to design and make things. My dad had a workshop. My grandfather, who I also grew up with, he had a workshop. Mum always had a drawing board set up and was designing it, and Dad was making it. And I explored every material you can imagine, from sort of wood and metal, and was constantly making things. But being near Northampton, it's where the shoe trade is. They used to give out bags of leather scrap on the Northampton market, the open market. And Mum used to bring me bags of scrap home for me to mess around with. And I just became fascinated with leather as a material. It's a very curious material to work with. It's an extremely sympathetic material to work with. It's very tactile, and it really wants to go places that you want to take it to. And it just started a passion, a lifelong passion with it. And now we experiment all the time, and we're constantly finding completely new and different things that have never been done with leather before. But I brought something along to show you, because this I thought was quite curious. My father was also an Olympic fencer.
Wow.
And this is his fencing glove.
That's seen some action.
The Olympics 1960. And it seems completely worn out, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's still, it's just worn through. And it's still a very beautiful thing. And those kinds of objects and being so tactile and in the hand has just stayed with me.
Yeah, and often leather gets better with age, doesn't it? Like you say,
absolutely, yeah, it does. And I used to go to Japan a lot when I had my bag business, and I was very influenced by a Japanese designer called Sari Yanagi, who I met, and was a wonderful man. But he was very he and his father, in fact, were very fundamental in the process of designing, of making something, being crucial to the designing process. So things got into 3D very, very quickly. And now, since for the last 25 years, I've always had my workshops always been in the center of the studio. So anybody coming into the workshop has to walk past somebody making something. And the designers, you can work things on paper, but as soon as it starts going to 3D, it gets super exciting. Plus, the craftsmen, they have a massive influence too. They as soon as it starts to take shape in the hands of a craftsman, it can change and meander and become something different, and that's so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think you said, Bill, that you have a vision and then you start it off in your sketchbook, and then that it manifests into something different. You start off in a sketchbook, and then it just changes, which is a good thing, because it's just taking you into a different direction.
Yeah.
And it's about the material, isn't it? It's about what the material can do.
Yeah, and you, as I said, you just keep discovering new things about it, and new things that you can mix it with, you know, that you wouldn't necessarily think are compatible. But, you know, we're just doing some experiments with leather and concrete as a surface material.
Wow.
And it's kind of, you would think, oh, no, they don't really work, but actually they're gorgeous together.
Yeah.
And they're very compatible in lots of ways.
Mm.
Is your relationship?
Waste, you know, lots of leather waste. So we're doing lots of experiments with using leather waste at the moment. That's proving to be really successful and exciting. Yeah, lots of stuff.
Yeah, I love your story when you were a child and your mother brought the scraps of leather, and it sounds like it's full circle. Now you're using those scraps to make something new and beautiful. What a beautiful cycle there. How do you relate to your leather with your dyslexia? Do you find that the tactility of it, the malleability of the materials, what's the relationship between that and your dyslexia?
I think the physicality of it is really helps. The fact that it is such a tactile material, and it is so, as I said earlier, it's so sympathetic in the hand.
Yes.
It really works with you, and that in itself is really exciting. I mean, and that I think surpasses any hiccups you might have with explaining yourself, or certainly having to document anything. But you know, we live and learn, and now I've got the most amazing team who write things down for me. They write letters for me. They do the numbers for me. You know, I'd be completely lost without them. You know, so but that's you know, that's you know, I've surrounded myself with help, if you like.
Yeah. So you can continue with the things you're good at.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't seem to mind, you know, even though they kind of roll their eyes every time I go, hey, I've got a really good idea. Please, got another one. But, yeah, that's okay too.
Sorry, I've got a question for you, just about materials. I think we shared a tutor. I did metalwork and silversmithing at college, and I had a tutor there who I think you know as well, another lovely German lady, and she could move metal like nobody else I knew, and she was very dyslexic, and she used to say it's the way she expressed herself. That was her medium. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely feel like for me, the sort of harder materials are more suitable. Like when you're saying like you like the tactility of leather, for example, I can totally agree with that. But however, I find it really hard to shape, let's say, clay or leather, and always feel, maybe it's also because I'm also dyslexic, but actually I find it much like it sort of aligns with my way of working way more, to have something which is quite tough and quite physical. I mean, I can imagine leather is quite physical as well. However, I just feel like with metal, I feel really in control of it actually, and that I really understand how it works, and I find it really immediate. So I can just take a wire and bend it and have a ring, and it makes, it's my way of sketching basically. So I don't really have to wait for anything to dry, or you know, like, so in a way it's a very fast way of working as well, and depending how you see it. But I think in that way the metal is really important for me, like that it's metal. And I have tried to work with fabrics, I've tried to work with leather and clay, and metal and stones have always stick to me. So I think it has to do something with the hardness of it.
Yeah.
Are different types of metals, you have different relationship with them? Does it more one metal than the other? Yeah.
I guess in jewelry you mainly work with non-ferrous metals. So we normally anyway mainly work with silver, because for us it's really important that it's valuable, but also actually that it has a silver ring you're going to keep much longer than maybe a brass ring where the plating is coming off. So for us, it's quite important that it has a certain value. Of course, we also work with gold on wedding ring commissions and so on. But for our own collections, it's always silver. But we do work, for example, all our samples, we do in brass in the studio, so we can be quite a bit more generous with the material. But also, anyhow, I love about metal that it can also be sort of remelted endlessly. So it's kind of the ultimate recyclable material in a way.
Sari, were you one of the first designers to create jewelry without piercings? Because I've never heard of that before. You were the first guys. I thought, oh man, I can wear all these amazing earrings without having holes in my body.
Yeah,
I think maybe that's a dyslexic thing of, creating in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's really wonderful that therefore, because we have non-invasive jewelry, it's really inclusive, so anybody can wear it. But also, I don't think we were the first ones. I mean, if you look in the 90s, there were sort of a lot of these type of earrings you can like clamp on and on your nose and so on. But I think we were definitely one of the first jewelry brands which made it their thing. And also, I think, as I said earlier, that we are, by just the way we design, it sort of happens naturally, finding new placements and really playing on the body. It didn't really feel right. Like having just the piercing really restricts you on the positioning, basically. And I think that's why we just really enjoyed not to focus just on that one piercing, because you can only position it where it's pierced, basically. Yeah, I think that's
fascinating. I think just the idea of negotiating the piercing alone opens a whole world of creative possibilities. And I know we can all relate to it as we dyslexic look at, everything is negotiable, right? So, and then that's really what innovation and creativity and design is all about. Julian, tell us about your medium and how does that affect you and your relationship to your dyslexia?
Yeah, well, listening to Bill's story, it just sounds like my own, those journeys, those struggles, and the process. It's very similar. I mean, I did pottery as a child, weekends, and then obviously did some painting as well. And then when I came to London, I was doing a lot of furniture, actually. Furniture making. I took my year out doing furniture making in between architecture, working for Matthew Marchbank in London, doing some very beautiful pieces of furniture. And then going back to model making at school, and then going back to building sites, really, of mixing muck and brick work and plastering. All of that sort of it's similar to Bill's process of sort of experimenting with lots of different materials, and then in my own way putting those into little boxes and putting them away and knowing, what they're all about and when to use those sort of really beautiful details of those materials, or just storing that sort of knowledge away. And then in a way, what I said in the book was that it was sort of just allowing yourself to sort of just, architecture chose me, is what I said in the book. That after doing all these things, it became very natural that, a multidisciplinary sort of thing was felt very natural to me. A bit of design, a bit of making, a bit of drawing. And then what fascinated me the most was, when I made sort of Kate's gallery, you create this thing, and it's much bigger than what you can make on your own. You need lots of people and input, and then it affects so many people that use it daily. And as the projects got more ambitious and bigger, the amount of people it affects and how it affects your city and how you live in it, and it's that sort of connection that got very exciting, I think, and what we can kind of share and give. So I was earlier, there was this question about what is your sort of in one word, what dyslexia to you? And I was thinking that it's about difference and how we can offer a different point of view. But actually, listening to everyone and thinking about this, I think it's more about empathy and having this kind of empathy towards people and materials and the environment that those things sort of rest in. And just listening to how Sari talks about how she designs her jewelry, how they, they hook onto your ear, and they're working with natural contours and the natural environment and not forcing things. They're very clever, but behind that there's a lot of knowledge about materiality, and it's sort of engineering, all this secret sort of stuff that you don't necessarily show, but it's done very effortlessly. And it's similar to Bill's leatherwork, all the technique is stored behind there, and those drawers are open to do certain things and express things in certain ways. So I think that's what we share as makers, is that sort of empathy towards people, the end users, how they can use these spaces, and this material that's quite precious. How are we going to, get the most out of it and not waste things, and how can we still make beautiful things with the kind of leftover pieces, exactly the story earlier, and look at it from a very holistic sort of point of view. I think that's what we share as makers,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the questions from Michelle in the chat. She's asking, how do you find your passion? How do you find your inspiration? Bill, you mentioned your mother and the leather strap. Julian, different materials. How did you guys find, Sari, how did you know the metal was your medium? Where did that sort of moment start?
I don't know, actually. I feel like it happened because my mom, as you said earlier, had a beads jewelry shop. So I've always been surrounded by jewelry, but in a very different way. And for me, I was really curious about the idea of really shaping 3D objects out of just sheet and wire. And I thought it's like super magical. That a ring can just, or like a sheet can just be domed and really shaped. And so I started an internship with best friend of my mom in the goldsmithing workshop, and just totally fell in love with working in metal. And she also really saw my talent. And then I started studying gemstone and jewelry design, actually. So I also really learned gemstone carving, which I think is really magical as well. However, it's very slow, and I think I'm a little bit more impatient, which I think I love metal. But I think I love the materiality of the stone, but I find it not as satisfying to work with as I find it with metal, I think, from my own perspective. However, I still really love touching it and having it around me, basically. And then it just didn't stop.
I like Julian's comment about little drawers in the back of your head.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because I think dyslexic brains are like that. We carry a lot of stuff going along. We have a lot of some people call it chaotic, but I don't see it as chaotic. I think it's a kind of we carry creative alternatives the whole time. We have a lot of options the whole time. There's always something going on. We can always find another route around something, and that kind of that leads to experimentation. And I think Michelle's question about how does she help her sons who are trying to find their particular passion? I mean, I would just say, show them everything, let them play with literally everything.
Yeah.
And encourage them in every single department. Open up all of those drawers in the back of the mind. And one of them will have something in that one of the sons will go, hey, this draw's for me. Yeah. This is my material. This is my medium. This is my thing. This is my, and that could be anything, film, photography, anything.
Yeah.
But it's about throwing open the doors to creativity. Because I think that's how the dyslexic mind works, is that we have this vast, chaotic churn the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can totally relate to that. When I was growing up, the main mantra in my house was try everything.
Yeah.
Not trying is failure. So try, because then you know, do you like it? Do you not like it? Does it soothe you? Does it not soothe you? And then when you find something that feels good, then do more of it. And when you try it and he says, I don't like the trumpet or whatever it is for me, then stop doing it. But at least you know how to find what really you're good at and what gives you that sort of contentment, so you can develop that skill or that practice. I can very much relate to what you're saying, Bill, and I think that's a great question. You know, some people just need a little more time to sort of discover, but try everything, and I think that really feeds our dyslexia. You know, to you know, as I know all of us says in different ways, and I think Julian, you said it in the book as well. I look for big problems because then I can feed my need to solve and think and, you know, all of the experiences of it. And we do the same thing. Small problem seems to be kind of like, what's the point, right? So I love that question. Any other comments about how to find your passion?
Yeah, and just look outside the schoolroom, perhaps, as well. I mean, because they're not necessarily dyslexic-friendly topics. I mean, some they are, as you know, as we said before, dyslexia is different for everybody. But yeah, look outside the classroom.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think my experience was the older I got, and you know, towards the end of my education, and actually you realize that at the beginning, you know, you're shoehorned into this kind of way of thinking that's not actually how your brain works, right? So 80% of the class are excelling in things, and then that there's a moment when that sort of turns, you know, when you're sort of in your higher sort of education, or later when you enter a career. There's a momentum when actually, you know, dyslexia is an advantage, and you know, you're actually creating things much more faster and alternatives and interesting things than your peers. So I think that's something for dyslexic sort of parents and kids out there to really understand, is that, you know, you may be struggling right now to fit into a mold that's, you know, been around for ages, but actually those shackles will come off when you grow up, and you're free to kind of you become the, you know, the center of attention, you know, someday. That, you know, but that beats us up as kids. You know, we think we're sort of not good at stuff, and we lack confidence, and it's really trying to sort of undo that. Really is.
Well, it just affects the self-esteem.
And I just think it's good to remember that while you're at school, they teach you maybe 10 or 12 subjects. But once you leave school, there are so many job careers you could follow that, you know, that we don't teach our children at school. It's just, you know, it's very limited what we are taught at school. But once you're out in the working environment, there are like thousands of jobs, you know.
And you're not graded on empathy or, you know, or sort of more practical skills that are really needed in the workplace and come into their own then, don't they?
My son, the first year of secondary school, at the end of the term, he got a certificate for being the most charming, and he's severely dyslexic, and I'm going, seriously, you got charm, you're going to go far. You might be writing, but, you know, if you've got charm and you're kind and you're enthusiastic, you're hardworking, you know, it helps.
Well, it's a good segue to the next question that I wanted to sort of get into is, how has dyslexia been an advantage in our work? You know, we're talking about obviously school and the challenging to work within linear mediums or learn linear mediums. How do you think dyslexia has been really sort of an advantage in what you do? Julian, let's start with you.
I guess architecture, there's so many people involved. It's out of your own control, right? You set a direction, but then you have to get everyone behind your concept and idea. So there's a lot of communication that goes on, of multiple pieces moving together, and a kind of three-dimensional puzzle with technical sort of constraints, environmental constraints, and end user sort of requirements. And there's so many things that are also to do with sort of very emotive things, and while satisfying all the technical stuff. So there's a constant jigsaw puzzle that's in flux, and you move one thing and it affects the other end and it falls off, then you have to kind of keep the whole thing moving together with the right, so you don't dilute the concept, that you keep it together, and and otherwise it becomes one big mess. And you see a lot of examples like that of buildings that have just become a big mess, of ducts popping out and things like that. So if you want to, you want to stick to your concept, and then get everyone behind you, you have to kind of manage this big jigsaw puzzle. And I guess being dyslexic means that you have a mental map of where things are all the time. So, you can see one little problem cropping up, it's going to affect that, and you can quickly firefight it and just keep it under control.
I love the way that you said the more complicated it gets, the more you enjoy it.
Yeah, well, it's where you find that you add a lot of value to a team. That you get a lot of engineers and M&E people and clients and other people coming and say, can I do this? Can I tweak this? And you go, hang on a second, there might be a solution there, but if we do this and that, it doesn't change the concept. Great, let's go for that. It won't affect the design, but if you could do it like this and run the pipe that way, we're all happy. So there's a lot of those sort of jigsaw puzzles going on constantly in a building, and you're trying to keep it all together throughout.
And you can see it all in your mind, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, having excellent 3D motor skills counts. It goes a long way. You can picture things and they're there as a shape, right, in your mind all the time. So that's probably the biggest difference between makers and architects, is that you have this challenge where you design something and for years it doesn't manifest itself into a shape at one-to-one, right? So you have I brought in my little model here behind me it's the kind of things that I enjoy making, to test facades and rhythms and shadows and how it casts things in a very abstract way, and then you slowly sort of refine that through the process of adding materiality to it, so you get different sheens and reflections and build up that sort of idea. And obviously you have 3D visualization that you can do as well, but yeah, the hands-on thing of just diving into a model and just playing with things, whether it's in virtual or physical, is the same as sort of Sari and Bill. You just want to get in there and start making something and look at it from upside down, turn it around, and sort of walk through that space. I mean, really important to me in the process is quickly getting to a 3D model.
Julian, can you bring the model closer so we can all see it with more detail? Is it light enough?
This is in Japan, so I've sort of made it out of Japanese cedar, so it's all out of one wood, and it's going to be one of our sort of a very tall building. I can't really tell you where it is; it's top secret still. But
well, we saw it here first, so that's gorgeous. Thank you for sharing that. Sari, tell me a little bit about your dyslexia and how dyslexia plays an advantage in your work.
I think I'm extremely lucky to have Ricarda by my side. So I think we're a really good team, not just because I'm dyslexic and she's not, but also I think, I don't know how dyslexia actually totally affects me on a day-to-day basis. I think I really found my ways of just dealing with this. And also I grew up not knowing that I'm dyslexic. I only found out when I did my MA at the RCA. So it just suddenly felt like when I found out that I'm dyslexic, I just was like, aha, everything makes sense now. But however, I don't think it changed a lot since. So I just kind of continued the way I just live creatively. But yeah, so for the day-to-day things and running a business, I think it's really great to be dyslexic because you do have this like bigger picture of everything. When you run a business, there's so many things going on. So I'm definitely not just a designer. You have to do all the other parts of it as well. I guess, everybody probably knows that. So I think in that sense, I really think it's something very positive. But on the other hand, also I think having someone like Ricarda by my side, who is definitely more structured and really helps with the things I'm not as good at, as is like finance or more classical things dyslexics might not enjoy as much. So I think therefore in a creative way we bounce off each other everything. So we do the creative part totally together, but then during for all the other parts we share everything. And yeah, I think that really is golden.
Yeah.
Together is better.
Yeah.
Together is better. I can so relate to it, you know, and I found that it's not that they're helping me or I'm helping them, is that together, to your point in the book, it is better because what they can do, I can't. But what I can do, they can't. So when we come together, you know, oh, do you have any ideas? Oh boy, I have endless amount of ideas. Can you help me produce them? I can produce anything. So all of a sudden, the two of us, or if you have a team, can really manifest, you know, cities and art and materials and spaces, and everybody gets to be part of that collaborative process. So I can very much relate to your collaboration as a foundation to you guys' beautiful work. Bill, how do you collaborate and how do you work with your dyslexia with your team?
Well, I think it's about extending really what both Sari and Julian have said, in that because of our dyslexia, whenever we come to learn about it or not, it doesn't really matter, but that you become very good with people, I think. And a lot of dyslexics are good communicators. They're able to talk. They're able to describe and talk about things and bring people in and bring people together, mainly because we need to, you know, both professionally and perhaps privately to a degree. You know, you need other people a lot. So you become very good people.
Yeah.
And that's quite, you know, we're very good at relationships, and that leads to good collaborations, and that leads to resolutions. And those things are important in work and in life. And what starts out as being a bit of a problem actually is fine. And you know what? I'm not interested in finance particularly, but you know, Massimo, my finance director, is fantastic at it, and I couldn't live without him. And you know, likewise, I have people that write if I need something written, because I can't write very well, but that's okay too. You know, and you just build these relationships that are not a support group, but you find ways of getting around things, and that's a resolution. And resolutions are important, you know, to sort of, it gives you a kind of holistic, nice, world encompassing thing, and that's good.
Yeah. How does, you know, as a dyslexic, I know that I always play between the idea of order and disorder, right? Because I have so many ideas, and that's, you know, my dyslexia can spin on anything. So obviously when you're trying to read, every letter is negotiable. I don't see them as non-negotiable symbols. I can see them from every perspective all at the same time. And that's why it's challenging to understand maybe a sentence or a word or a story in that medium. When I'm looking at how to use that for creativity, that disorder allows me to see, as Julian, you were saying, the whole world around. I can see around the corner, and I can kind of come together. How do you guys work with order or disorder, and how does that play a role in your projects and your teamwork? Sari, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I guess as I said, I guess running a business, you have to bring some order in from all the different aspects. So I do really like to be in control as well, but I'm also really happy to, I don't know, like share it and have a great team around me. And therefore I also really like, I don't know, giving away control. So I think there's a bouncing back and forth. And then, I mean, sort of day-to-day ways of dealing with it, I think is like deadlines obviously always help to get things in order. And then, yeah, I think I'm always having like huge to-do lists, which I write like by hand. I do them in digital as well, but for me it really helps to just write it physically, and then I really can structure my day every morning. So yeah, I guess that's my way of working with control.
Yeah. When you make your list, do you use different colors? Do you use different ways to sort of create a visual relationship to your what needs to come first? You know, what's urgent, what's important, things like that.
I think I just write really big, like an A4, and then I always have like lots of sheets and underline. And yeah, I think I don't actually work with that many colors, but lots of sort of lines and scribbles and things like that. So to visualize everything, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of using it. Go ahead.
No, see, it's funny. I'm the same. I have for years now, for 20 years, I've had a kind of a diary that's 1 day per page of the diary, and I do the same as you. I have a list, and you know, nothing I like more than at the end of the day, everything's got a tick by it, and if it hasn't got a tick by it, it just moves on to the next day. And that's how I kind of structure my life. But literally everything else is very loose.
Yeah.
Everything else is very loose, and I embrace the chaos. You know, I love it when you know you're on all cylinders and everything is working. But it goes back to what I was saying about sort of creative exploration. I think that you find you know, a lot of creative people, they're good at lots of different things. You know, they like cooking, they like gardening, they like drawing, they like painting, they like, you know, objects. You know, it's you don't restrict yourself to one medium necessarily, nor one particular skill. You end up not consuming is the wrong word, but you end up embracing just different things and lots of different things.
Yeah.
I love as well, Bill, what you said in the book about taking things slow and don't get bullied or forced into rushing, and tell the truth and be honest at all costs. That way everything is clear. I think that's genius advice.
Well, I think that's my mum was a kind of sage, you know. She was like a bit of an owl, and you know, I think I learned from her that kind of stay calm. I mean, I do get excited, obviously, but you know, just try and keep it, even when it's really chaotic. There's always a route, you know, and even if that route waggles around, that's good too. But there is always a route through everything.
Yeah.
And as long as you're true to yourself and true to your comrades and friends and family, then you know what could go wrong.
Nothing.
Famous last word. I mean, here's the thing about slowing down is because we see the world so fast, slowing down to us, it's still massively fast compared to other types of thinkers. So I found that, you know, slowing down allows everybody, as we talked about team and partners working together, allows everybody to sort of try to find a middle ground between the speed of thought and the speed of ideas and dealing with time, which I know some of us see time as a flexible framework. Julian, how do you deal with order or disorder in a very, I'm sure, very chaotic environment, creative environment?
Well, I'm thinking what to add without sounding like a broken record, because the experience, the thing is exactly the same. You know, the head spinning, I want to do this and that today, you know, so many things. And then writing it down actually forces me to slow myself down and actually go through them slowly. Otherwise, if I didn't write them down, I'd be like everywhere all day. And, you know, so it's a way of slowing things down and sort of getting in the right sort of frame of mind to sort of tick off that list. And therefore I always carry a notebook that just has things to do every day, you know, and it just goes on and on and on. And I unfortunately don't always tick them off because our buildings take many years to finish. So some of those stay there for a year. But
it's funny, Julian, that we all write, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're all with our
as in hard copies, not computers.
Yeah, I used to be really frightened of writing. I used to think, oh God, but then you suddenly realize that actually your notebook's your notebook and you can write whatever you like in it. It doesn't matter how you spell or whether anybody else can read it. Those things aren't important.
No.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that, Gil, I think I read somewhere that in your studio, you encourage your designers to, if they have an idea, just to scribble it on the wall. You said that there's no precious wall in your studio. Just go ahead and write it on the wall. I mean,
years back, we decided to turn all of the walls in the spaces that we have into dry erase spaces. And it's actually the most beautiful thing because somebody will go and put a thought or even just whatever. And over time, it's this sort of living, creative ideation spaces. And it helps me. I mean, I think that's similar to Bill, as you said, that you have in the center, you walk through the maker experience. It helps me to have my space being very tangible. So color and walls and objects. Even when we do, let's say, a concept board, we print it all out so we can move it and tape on it. And, and you can really start to see, well, how I think, because it's everywhere. But you also can see much easily how one edge or corner of a wall relates to the bottom corner, because everybody can move back and it moves it from just looking it through the computer, or even on paper.
Do you think it's because it's made it more almost three-dimensional, which is a more comfortable place? Because to have just something on a screen, I find really difficult to relate to, maybe is the word, and even Paul Smith, in his shops, they're not just about clothes, it's about beautiful objects and just rich textures and layers and he's a massive collector of amazing things, and I know people send him all sorts of things from all over the world, and great to hear his story in the book as well. It's always beautiful to see people's spaces or creative spaces, because you can it's like a sandbox. You can kind of tell these objects and these assets, and your pictures in the back there, Sari, or your beautiful artwork, Julian, in the back, and Bill, likewise, the artwork in the back really sort of helps sort of regulate and calm the mind and put yourself in ease, as dyslexia is sometimes can be quite a lot. But I think we're just at the top of the hour. So as we close, I would love to go around and hear from each one of you, if you had to explain or pick up one word that explains dyslexia to you, what would that word be? Julian, let's start with you.
I think I jumped to that, didn't I, originally at the beginning. But yeah, empathy was what I was saying earlier, about, people and materials and environment, I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep it short. Empathy. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Sari, what would be your word?
I think I was thinking about it, and I think connectivity, because it's really about connecting all the dots mentally, but also physically, through collaborations. And I think that's my way of
lovely.
And Bill, what would be your word?
My word was alternatives. So I think it's a way of, I think that we're blessed with looking at things differently, and that gives us an alternative view, which I think is a lucky place to be. We can think around things and we look at things differently, and it gives us alternatives. There's always another route. There's always another thing.
Cool.
Kathy, what's your word for dyslexia?
Oh, roller coaster. Definitely. When you're got a good day as a dyslexic, everything flows, and it's like an explosion of ideas, and everything's good, and everything you design is amazing. But then you have those days where the chaos just comes in, and you can't focus on what's good and what's bad, and then it's just you kind of have to wait for that good day to come along. But that's the wonderful thing about creativity. It's like, it's not a 9-to-5 job. You kind of, if you're a creative, you're living it 24 hours. And that's why I think sometimes we get those wonderful ideas at 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep, But yeah, roller coaster. That's it for me.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Kate, do you have a word for us?
Well, it has to be amazing.
Yeah, yes, absolutely amazing. You know, my word, and I've been so blessed to be dyslexic, is really the hyperability. And I think you guys hit all of that out of the park today. I think that hearing your approach, your relationship to your materials, how you went from the challenges of dyslexia, as we heard from Michelle and other today in the chat, as young children and young adults, and really be able to share how not overcome, but how we embrace the way we see the world, and then thrive, and then bring everybody else as collaborators and partners to our world, so we can make it brighter and better. And with that, I want to thank you all for your beautiful, beautiful time and faces and art and sharing and being so open-hearted and really sharing with all of us. It wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Kate and Kathy and this beautiful, beautiful book. Thank you to our guests. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dyslexic Design Thinking. We have a lot more great content coming, so make sure to like and subscribe. Dyslexic Design Thinking is produced by Gershoni Creative, created in partnership with Amazing Dyslexics.